It all started so innocently, I swear. One minute I'm just a regular guy, an everyday 9-to-5er with a mortgage and a mild obsession with reducing my carbon footprint. The next, I'm locked in a suburban Cold War with a woman whose superpower is wielding HOA bylaws like a battle axe. And it all began because I just wanted to stick it to the man, you know? The electric company, PGE, and their peak hours can kiss my… well, you get it. And maybe save a polar bear or two. So, solar panels it was. That's me, Mike Henderson, a man with a plan. A plan that involved a lot of sunshine, and, unbeknownst to me, a whole heap of Karen. My wife, Sarah. She just raised an eyebrow when I first brought it up. "Honey, are you sure?" she'd asked, her voice laced with that gentle skepticism she reserves for my grander schemes. "Remember the great composting initiative of 22? I waved a dismissive hand. That was different. The raccoons were unexpectedly organized. The memory of finding our carefully sorted compost bin knocked over and its contents strewn across the lawn like a bizarre, organic crime scene still stung a little. "This is different. This is… power. From the sky," I'd said, probably with a bit too much messianic fervor. Sarah just sighed and went back to her book, a silent prayer for our savings account in her eyes. Gus, my solar contractor, shows up a week later. He's got that look, the one that says I've wrestled bears and installed panels in hurricanes, kid. Nothing you say will surprise me. He's built like a small, friendly bulldozer, and his hands look like they could crush granite. He's wiping grease from them on a rag that's seen better decades, maybe even better centuries. "So, Mr. Henderson," he rumbles, his voice like gravel in a cement mixer. "Big plans, huh? HOA gonna be okay with this?" He scans our decidedly average suburban roof with a practiced eye. "Got the pre-approval," I say, all breezy confidence. "Just a formality," they said. "It's green energy, Gus. Who argues with green energy?" I'm already picturing my electric meter spinning backward, the sweet satisfaction of generating my own juice. Gus just chuckles, a dry, knowing sound. "You new to HOAs, son?" I should have listened. I really, really should have listened. The formality wasn't so formal. It was a full-blown inquisition, held in the community clubhouse, a sterile room that smelled faintly of old coffee and simmering resentment. And there she was, Brenda Crabtree, HOA president. Hair sculpted into a rigid blonde helmet that looked like it could deflect small arms' fire. Eyes like two chips of Arctic ice that could curdle milk from 50 paces. She sat at the head of a long table, flanked by two other board members who looked like they'd lost a bet. "Mr. Henderson," Brenda began, her voice dripping with a saccharine suspicion that set my teeth on edge. "These… panels." She said the word panels like it was a particularly unpleasant skin condition. "Are they going to be… reflective? We have concerns about glare affecting Mrs. Periwinkle's prize-winning petunias across the street." I try to be charming. It's usually a 50-50 shot. "Brenda, is it?" I beam, hoping my inner eco-warrior is projecting calm and reasonableness. "They're state-of-the-art, designed to absorb, not reflect. Think of them as stealthy sun vacuums, very low profile. Mrs. Periwinkle's petunias will be perfectly safe, I assure you." Brenda is unmoved. Her lips purse into a moo of profound disapproval. "We'll see. The Aesthetics Committee will require a full report, and a color swatch of the mounting brackets, and possibly a scale model of your roof with the proposed installation." I can feel my colon clenching. A scale model? Was she serious? "A scale model?" I managed to squeak out. "Standard procedure for significant exterior modifications, Mr. Henderson." Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. "Oh, this is going to be fun." The kind of fun that involves root canals without anesthetic. The next few weeks are a blur of paperwork, emails, and increasingly surreal requests from Brenda. Did I have an environmental impact study for the shade they might cast on my own lawn? No, Brenda. Grass generally likes some sun. Could I guarantee the panels wouldn't attract migratory birds, who might then defecate on Mr. Peterson's newly washed sedan? Brenda, I can't even guarantee I won't do that. But finally, after what feels like negotiating a nuclear disarmament treaty, the day arrives. Gus and his crew are up on the roof before I've even had my second cup of coffee. The sun is shining. Birds are chirping. I'm practically vibrating with eco-smugness. I'm out there with my phone, snapping pictures, giving Gus enthusiastic thumbs-ups. He just grunts and keeps working. Brenda is watching from her window, a shadowy figure behind pristine curtains, arms crossed. I give her a big, friendly wave. The curtains twitch, but no wave back. Figures. You're like a kid with a new Lego set, Sarah says, coming out onto the patio with a mug of coffee for me. A very expensive, roof-mounted Lego set. But it makes its own power, Sarah. I grin, taking a triumphant sip. And saves us money, and annoys Brenda. Win-win-win. The system goes live a few days later. The app is glorious. Little green numbers ticking up. Kilowatts generated. Credits accumulating with the utility company. I'm checking it like a new dad checking on a sleeping baby, every hour, on the hour. I show it to Sarah. I show it to Gus when he comes for a final checkup. See? Gus rumbles, giving a panel a paternal pat. Sweet setup, she'll pay for herself in no time. She's a beauty, Gus. A real beauty. Then, one Tuesday. It's a perfectly normal Tuesday. I've just finished a rather bland turkey sandwich for lunch, contemplating the afternoon's TPS reports. I open the app, ready for my little hit of green energy dopamine. 0. A big, fat, mocking 0 credits. Not just for the day, but for the entire past month. The graph, usually a happy upward climb of generated energy, is a flat line of nothingness. What the? Sarah peers over my shoulder. What's wrong? Glitch? My blood runs cold. This isn't a glitch. This feels intentional. My beautifully accumulating credits, the ones I'd mentally earmarked for a new barbecue, vanished. Poof! Frantic tapping on the app. Error messages pop up like digital whack-a-moles. I call the solar company. Young, cheerful voice on the other end. Mr. Henderson, how are those panels treating you? Not great, Kevin, I say, my voice tight. My credits, they're gone. The app says 0. A flurry of typing on his end. That's odd, sir. Your system is online, generating power just fine according to our diagnostics. Let me check the utility portal. Oh, well, that's unusual. Unusual how, Kevin? I can feel a muscle twitching in my eyelid. Sir, according to the utility portal, your account, it's like your generation data for the past month was never submitted, or it was deleted from their end before processing. Deleted? I practically shriek. How can it be deleted? I don't know, sir. That's highly irregular. You'll have to contact the utility company directly, and maybe your HOA, if they're involved in any community solar program submissions. My HOA, Brenda. A cold certainty settles in my gut. I know who did this. There's only one person with that much spite, that much time on her hands, and potential access to community administrative portals. I thank Kevin, my mind already racing. I don't even bother with the utility company yet. I march straight over to Brenda's house, my sensible HOA-approved sneakers, the ones she made me submit a picture of to ensure they were aesthetically harmonious with community pathways. Feel like lead boots of righteous fury. I ring her doorbell, a short, sharp jab. She answers holding a pair of pruning shears, looking like she's just been disciplining a particularly wayward rose bush. There's a smudge of dirt on her cheek. She looks almost normal. Almost. "Mr. Henderson," she says, her voice as cool as a cucumber in a freezer. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" "Brenda." I keep my voice level, a Herculean effort. "My solar credits, they're gone." She feigns innocence, but there's a glint in her eye, a tiny, almost imperceptible flicker of triumph. "Solar credits, Mr. Henderson? I'm sure I wouldn't know. Perhaps you misread your little app?" She makes app sound like a four-letter word. "The utility company says the data was deleted before it was processed. And guess who has administrative access to the community submissions for utility programs?" I'm staring her down, daring her to deny it. "Are you accusing me of something, Mr. Henderson?" Her voice takes on a dangerous edge. "That's a serious allegation. Perhaps you should check your equipment. Sometimes these novelty items are unreliable." The emphasis on novelty is like a tiny poisonous dart. "My equipment is fine," I say, my voice rising despite myself. "My credits are not. And I have a sneaking suspicion you're the reason why." Brenda actually smirks, a small, tight, utterly infuriating smirk. "Well, suspicion isn't proof, is it? Have a lovely day, and do try to keep your solar glare off Mrs. Periwinkle's petunias." She closes the door in my face, gently, which is somehow worse than if she'd slammed it. I stand there on her perfectly manicured porch, fuming. The nerve! The absolute, unmitigated gall! I can hear the snick-snick of her pruning shears from inside, probably murdering a daisy with my name on it. I storm back to my house. Sarah meets me at the door, concern etched on her face. "Well? What did Sauron's little sister have to say?" "She practically admitted it," I rail, pacing our living room. "That smirk, that condescending tone. Novelty items, I'll show her novelty." "Okay, deep breaths," Sarah says, her voice calm, a soothing balm on my incandescent rage. "We don't know she did it. There could be 1,000 explanations." "Oh, I know," I say, my voice dropping to a low growl. "I know, and she is going to regret this. Big time." "Okay, Mike. Be rational, be official." That's what I tell myself, even though every fiber of my being wants to go full Liam Neeson in Taken on Brenda's prize-winning petunias. So I spend the next week on the phone. The utility company, the solar company, again. The HOA management company, a group of people so terrified of Brenda, they communicate mainly in whimpers and hastily CC'd emails. It's a masterclass in bureaucratic buck-passing. The utility company, after an hour on hold listening to a pan-flute rendition of Stairway to Heaven, tells me, "Sir, if the data wasn't uploaded correctly by the HOA portal, we can't retroactively create credits. Our system just doesn't do that." Helpful. The solar company, sympathetic but ultimately powerless, can only confirm my system is pumping out kilowatts like a champ. "It's like having a Ferrari with no gas, Mr. Henderson. All that potential just sitting there. Thanks for that analogy, Chad. The HOA management company is the real gem. I finally get through to a drone named Timothy, who sounds like he's 12 and perpetually on the verge of tears. Mrs. Brenda, handles all utility submissions directly with the provider. We don't have access to override that specific portal function." He whispers the last part like Brenda might be listening through the phone lines, which, knowing her, she probably is. It's a bureaucratic brick wall, and Brenda's the architect, the foreman, and the smug bricklayer, whistling as she cements my solar dreams into oblivion. Sarah finds me staring blankly at a spreadsheet of my estimated, and now thoroughly deceased, solar savings. "So, what now?" she asks, gently prying the 5th or so cold coffee cup from my hand. "Just let her win?" "Win?" The word hangs in the air. Brenda, win. The two words together taste like ash and injustice. Win? I echo, a slow, predatory smile spreading across my face. The kind of smile that usually means I've found a particularly juicy loophole in the state tax code during my day job. Oh no, Sarah. She picked the wrong guy to mess with. She just doesn't know it yet. It's the next morning. I'm staring at my work ID badge while waiting for the kettle to boil. Michael Henderson, State Energy Compliance Auditor. It's a title I've carried for 15 years. 15 years of wading through dense regulations, deciphering labyrinthine utility contracts, and occasionally, just occasionally, bringing the hammer down on companies playing fast and loose with energy laws. And it hits me. Like a rogue solar panel falling from the sky, a glorious, epiphany-laden thwack to the noggin. I have a very particular set of skills. Skills I have acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like Brenda. I start cackling. A low, rumbling chuckle at first. Then it builds into a full-blown, slightly unhinged laugh. Sarah walks into the kitchen, looking concerned. Mike, you okay? That's your evil genius laugh. That usually precedes an international incident or at least a strongly worded letter to the editor about the Oxford comma. Better, my dear, I say, grabbing my ID badge and waving it like a scepter. So much better. Brenda thinks she's the queen of this little cul-de-sac. She thinks she's untouchable in her beige kingdom of bylaws and passive-aggressive newsletters. I take a dramatic pause. She has no idea who I am. The State Energy Auditor. I audit cities, Sarah. Entire power grids. An HOA. That's like auditing a lemonade stand run by particularly dim-witted squirrels. A spark ignites in my chest. This isn't just about the credits anymore. Oh no, this is about principle. This is about the little guy, me, in this instance, despite my official title, versus the petty tyrant. And okay, maybe it's a little bit about revenge. All right, a bit about revenge. The kind of precise, meticulously planned revenge that only a man who reads 700-page regulatory documents for fun can truly appreciate. Operation Petty Retaliation, Phase 1, commences that very afternoon. Brenda's prize-winning petunias, I mused to Sarah, tapping my chin thoughtfully. She mentioned them, didn't she? Seemed quite attached. From my office window, which conveniently overlooks Brenda's front yard, I've noticed her sprinkler system is inefficient. Very inefficient. It waters the sidewalk with more dedication than it waters her actual lawn. A veritable geyser of wasted H2O, right in the middle of the city's summer water restrictions. Oh, look. The city's website has a whole section on water wastage, complete with penalties for repeat offenders. And a handy anonymous tip line. I pick up my burner phone. Yes, I have a burner phone. Long story involving a fantasy football league and some ill-advised trash talk. Using a slightly disguised, high-pitched, concerned citizen voice, I dial. Yes, hello, City Water Department? I'd like to report a truly heinous case of aqua extravagance at 12 Elm Street. Yes, the one with the aggressively manicured lawn. The sprinklers, officer, they're practically creating a new wetland preserve on the pavement. The humanity, or, you know, the fishanity. A few days later, I'm sipping my morning coffee, strategically positioned by my window. A bright blue City Water Department truck pulls up in front of Brenda's house. An official-looking chap in a clipboard-wielding uniform is soon engaged in what appears to be a rather stern conversation with a flustered-looking Brenda. Her helmet hair seems to quiver with indignation. She gets a bright yellow warning notice stuck to her door. My coffee has never tasted so good. Sarah walks in, sees the scene unfolding, then looks at my beatific smile. She shakes her head, but there's a definite smirk playing on her lips. You're terrible. She started it, I say, taking another blissful sip. This is merely an energy-adjacent inquiry into water resource management. I'm practically performing a public service. Apparently, checking your own solar panel inverter in your own yard at dusk is now categorized as suspicious loitering, at least according to one Brenda Crabtree. Guess who called it in? 2 police officers are at my door later that week. Officer Miller, face etched with the weary resignation of a man who's seen too many neighborhood squabbles, and Officer Davis, young, bright-eyed, and probably still believing he can make a difference, one noise complaint at a time. "Evening, sir," Officer Miller says, his voice flat. "We got a call about someone, lurking around the side of your house. Caller said you might be tampering with utility infrastructure." He says utility infrastructure, with air quotes I can practically see. I try not to laugh. I really do. "That would be me, officers. Mike Henderson, I live here." I gesture vaguely at my own front door. "Checking my solar inverter, which is mine, and generates power, legally, for my house." Suddenly, Brenda's voice cuts through the evening calm from her porch across the street. She's practically vibrating with self-importance. "He's always fiddling with it. It's probably illegal. It's making my Wi-Fi slow. And I think it's giving my cat anxiety." Officer Davis, bless his innocent heart, actually turns to address her. "Ma'am, solar panels don't generally affect Wi-Fi, and, cat anxiety isn't really a police matter." Officer Miller just sighs, a sound that seems to carry the weight of all human folly. He turns back to me, lowering his voice. "HOA dispute, huh?" "You have no idea," I say, my voice equally quiet. "The woman thinks aesthetic harmony is a prosecutable offense." The cops leave, not before giving Brenda a look that clearly says, "Please find an actual crime to report next time." I give them a friendly wave. Brenda glares, her face a mask of thwarted righteousness. This is escalating. Beautifully! Gus, my seen-it-all solar contractor, is back a week later. He's here to install a bird mesh thingy around the panels. Brenda probably submitted a formal complaint that the pigeons were using my solar array as a spa and targeting her car for dive bombing practice. While he's up on the ladder, expertly fitting the mesh, I tell him the whole saga. The deleted credits, the denials, the petunias. Gus stops working, turns, and stares at me. Then he lets out a low whistle. "Deleted your credits? Son of a... That woman's a piece of work. I had a run-in with her about the color of my truck when I was here last. Said it wasn't a community-approved hue." "My truck is white, Henderson. White! What hue is more community-approved than white?" "You're preaching to the choir, Gus," I say. "So, as a professional, any ideas how she could have actually deleted the data? From the utility side, I mean. If she's just an HOA president, how much access could she really have?" Gus scratches his chin, a thoughtful look on his face. "Well, some HOAs, especially the bigger ones, or if they manage a community solar share program or something, they get a special portal login from the utility company, usually for submitting bulk data for residents enrolled in energy programs, like net metering. If she's the administrator for that portal, she could potentially flag an account. Maybe mark it as resident moved out or system inactive right before the monthly data pull is scheduled. Poof! No credits generated for that cycle because the utility's system thinks your solar setup is offline or no longer eligible." A chill runs down my spine, despite the warm afternoon. That makes a terrifying amount of sense. And it would be really hard to prove she did it maliciously without an audit trail from the utility, wouldn't it? "Bingo," Gus says, snapping his fingers. "You'd need someone on the inside at the utility company, or someone who knows how those utility portals work really well." He gives me a significant wink. "Interesting," I say, the wheels in my head spinning faster than my, sadly still creditless, electric meter on a bluebird summer day. Very interesting indeed. Operation Petty Retaliation, Phase 2, is now officially greenlit in my mind. Brenda's house. It's a monument to 1980s energy standards. I can practically see the heat leaking out of her single-pane windows from my driveway. Her air conditioner, a hulking, rust-stained behemoth, groans and rattles like a dying walrus trying to escape a tar pit. And I kid you not, she still has icicle-style Christmas lights strung across her porch railings. In July, "Oh, Brenda, you make this far too easy. Now, I can't officially audit her private residence without cause and a whole lot of warrants. That would be a gross abuse of power. And despite my current Brenda-induced vengeful streak, I'm still a professional. But the HOA common areas? That's a different story. I draft an anonymous concern letter. It's a masterpiece of passive-aggressive prose, addressed to the HOA board, with the terrified management company diligently CC'd, of course. I express grave concerns, as a fiscally minded and environmentally conscious resident, about the common area lighting being left on 24/7, the clubhouse thermostat apparently being permanently set to Arctic tundra in mid-blizzard, and the general lack of adherence to modern energy conservation principles that could be saving our community significant funds. I attach a beautifully detailed 10-page sample report on potential energy savings, complete with colorful charts, graphs, and projected ROI calculations. It looks incredibly official. Sarah reads it over my shoulder, her eyebrows disappearing into her hairline. "You didn't." "I merely facilitated a discussion on fiscal responsibility and environmental stewardship, my dear," I say, patting her hand. "It's for the good of the community." And the exquisite torment of Brenda Crabtree. The letter, as expected, causes quite the stir. Rumblings start at the community pool, whispers in the clubhouse. Other residents, smelling potential savings on their HOA dues, start asking pointed questions. Brenda is forced to address the concerns at the next HOA meeting. She looks stressed. Her helmet hair seems slightly less structural. These anonymous, and frankly alarmist, reports are clearly designed to sow discord and undermine the dedicated work of your volunteer board, she declaims, her voice tight with outrage. I raise my hand innocently from the back of the room. "But Brenda," I call out, my voice dripping with faux concern, "wouldn't saving money on energy be good for everyone's HOA dues? I mean, those common area floodlights are practically powerful enough to signal alien life." A few other residents chuckle. Brenda's glare could melt steel. Oh, this is good. The pièce de résistance of my pre-audit offensive? An accidental public records request. I'm just idly wondering one evening, as one does, if the HOA's energy contracts for common areas are publicly available documents, or if their meeting minutes properly reflect discussions on utility expenditures as per state transparency guidelines for community associations. As a state energy auditor, I do have a professional and vested interest in municipal and community energy usage transparency. So, I file a very polite, very official-looking public records request with the HOA management company for all energy-related expenditures, contracts, and relevant meeting minutes for the past 5 years. I cite a few obscure but perfectly legitimate state transparency bylaws that I happen to know off the top of my head. It's the kind of request that screams someone knows something you don't, and they're coming for your poorly documented receipts. Panic ensues at the HOA management company. I can almost hear Timothy's whimpers from across town. They call Brenda. Brenda, I can only assume, has a minor conniption. I happen to have my window open while tinkering in the garage, and I overhear snippets of a very loud, very distressed phone call emanating from Brenda's house. "He can't do that, Gary!" she shrieks, her voice carrying clearly across the manicured lawns. "What does he want? What is his angle?" Gary, her perpetually downtrodden husband, who I've only ever seen mowing their lawn with the haunted expression of a man who's seen too much, presumably offers no useful answers. I allow myself a small, satisfied smile. "My credits, Brenda," I murmur to myself, tightening a bolt on my lawnmower. "And a little bit of your rapidly dwindling sanity." This next part. This is where it gets really good. This is where the universe, or at least the bureaucratic cogs of state government, aligns in a truly beautiful way. The utility company, bless their diligent, regulation-bound hearts, has a whistleblower hotline for suspected fraud or misuse of their systems. And as a state energy compliance auditor, I am not only encouraged, but in fact mandated to investigate credible claims of energy program irregularities. It's practically in my job description. So, I draft a very detailed, very professional anonymous tip about a certain homeowners association in any town, USA, where a community portal administrator is suspected of selectively altering or deleting residents' solar generation data, potentially to settle personal vendettas or due to gross incompetence. I described the exact method Gus, my insightful solar contractor, had outlined. The tip is a work of art, factual, precise, and deeply concerning. I send it to the official state tip line, which, of course, through the magical mystery tour of governmental routing, will eventually land on my desk, or at least in my department, flagged for follow-up. Sarah watches me type it up, a mixture of awe and trepidation on her face. "You're tipping yourself off? About yourself, technically? Is that even legal, Mike? Isn't that like entrapment, but with more spreadsheets?" "It's my civic duty to report suspected fraud, Sarah," I say, hitting's end with a flourish. "And it's my professional duty to investigate credible claims. It's a beautiful synergy, really. A closed-loop system of justice. Plus, the tip is anonymous. Who's to say I sent it? Wink." A week later, an official-looking envelope arrives at 12 Elm Street, HOA President Brenda Crabtree's address. Certified mail. Return address. State Energy Compliance Office. It announces a formal inquiry into their homeowners association's handling of the residential solar credit program submissions, due to a credible anonymous complaint received by the state. I'm working from home that day, a strategic decision. I see the mail truck make its slow, ponderous way down our street. I see Brenda, watering her, now significantly less vibrant thanks to the city's water warning, petunias, sign for it with an air of regal impatience. I see her open it. I wish, oh, how I wish, I had a high-powered telescope and a lip-reading expert on standby. Her face goes through a fascinating series of micro-expressions, confusion, then disbelief, then a dawning, mottling horror that drains the color from her already pale complexion. She actually stumbles back a step, clutching the letter like it's a venomous snake. Then she scurries inside, slamming the door. Later that afternoon, my boss, a no-nonsense woman named Maria who's seen it all and is impressed by very little, calls me. "Mike," she says, her voice all business. "Got a weird one. Some HOA in your neck of the woods. Complaint about fudging solar credit data. Sounds small time, but the method described in the tip is clever. Nasty, but clever. Since it's local to you, can you do the initial field visit? Just a polite inquiry, see if there's any smoke. You know the drill." I try to sound neutral, like this is just another Tuesday afternoon assignment. "Sure thing, boss. Happy to. Always diligent about these community energy programs. Can't have folks misusing state incentives, can we?" My internal monologue, however, is doing a victory lap set to Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries. The next morning, I put on my official state auditor windbreaker. It's a fetching shade of navy blue, with the state seal and my title embroidered on the chest in gold. It's not exactly a superhero cape, but today it feels pretty close. I grab my official state auditor briefcase, which contains a notepad, 3 pens of varying colors, and an air of unimpeachable authority. This is it, showtime. I ring Brenda's doorbell. The same doorbell I'd rung in a fury just a few weeks ago. She answers, looking like she hasn't slept in days. Her helmet hair is slightly askew, a telltale sign of extreme distress. Her eyes, usually sharp and judgmental, are wide and haunted. They flick from my face to the embroidered seal on my jacket, and then back to my face. The dawning comprehension is a beautiful thing to behold. This isn't Mike the annoying neighbor with the ugly solar panels. This is Mike the state freaking energy compliance auditor. Mrs. Crabtree, I say, my voice calm, professional, perhaps with just a hint of underlying steel. I even offer a small, polite smile. Michael Henderson, State Energy Compliance Office. We have an appointment to discuss your HOA's Solar Credit Program administration. I deliberately don't use my first name. Official business. Brenda stammers. It's a glorious sound. But you live. There must be some mistake. You're Mr. Henderson from next door. Her voice is a squeak. No mistake, ma'am, I say, my smile unwavering. I am indeed Michael Henderson, and I do live next door, which makes this initial inquiry rather convenient, wouldn't you say? Now, shall we go inside to discuss this? Or would you prefer to conduct this official state inquiry on the porch, where Mrs. Periwinkle can perhaps hear all about potential utility fraud and mismanagement of HOA funds? I nod pleasantly towards Mrs. Periwinkle's house, where the aforementioned lady is indeed trimming her roses, her ears practically swiveling in our direction. Brenda, now the color of spoiled milk, pale and trembling, ushers me into her immaculate, terrifyingly beige living room. It looks like a furniture showroom where joy goes to die. Her husband, Gary, a small, nervous man who always looks like he's about to apologize for existing, hovers in the background, wringing his hands. "Brenda, dear, what's this all about?" Gary asks, his voice thin. "Is this about the newsletter font again?" Brenda shoots him a look that could probably etch glass. "It's nothing, Gary, just a slight misunderstanding with the state." I clear my throat, placing my briefcase negocios on her pristine glass coffee table, with a soft but decisive thud. "Oh, I think it's a bit more than a misunderstanding, ma'am," I say, flipping open the latches. The air in the room crackles with unspoken accusations and Brenda's rapidly evaporating self-importance. "We have credible reports of data tampering, specifically your residents' solar credit data, being tampered with, allegedly by you." I meet her gaze. "Checkmate?" "Now, Brenda," I begin, my tone deceptively mild, the kind I use right before I explain to a CEO how their company is about to be fined into the next geological era. "We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the subpoena every piece of digital correspondence you've ever had regarding the HOA, the utility portals, and possibly your opinions on migratory bird droppings way. Your choice." I lay out the hypothetical, yet remarkably accurate, chain of events. The method Gus had described for an administrator to selectively delete or block solar data submissions. I casually mention the state and federal penalties for utility fraud, the potential for civil lawsuits from affected residents, and the generally unpleasant experience of having one's HOA affairs dissected under the harsh glare of a state investigation. Brenda starts to cry. At first, it's just a sniffle, a dab at her eyes. Then, the floodgates open. Real tears? Crocodile tears? At this point, I honestly don't care. It's the sound of her meticulously constructed little empire crumbling. He was so smug," she wails, dabbing at her eyes with a lace-trimmed handkerchief that appears out of nowhere. Gary pats her shoulder awkwardly. With his panels, and the glare he insisted wasn't there, and everyone always complaining about the budget, and his panels weren't even aesthetically harmonious. I wanted to teach him a lesson, to show him that HOA rules mean something. Gary looks aghast. Brenda, you didn't. About Mr. Henderson's solar thingies? So you admit, I interject, my voice sharp and cutting through her lament, that you intentionally prevented Mr. Michael Henderson's solar generation data from being processed by the utility company. Brenda gives a small, defeated nod, her shoulders slumped. Her helmet hair seems to deflate a little. Yes, she whispers. But it was a one-time thing. I was stressed. I was going to fix it, eventually. A one-time thing, I repeat, letting the words hang in the air. That cost a resident, in this case, myself, coincidentally, hundreds of dollars in legitimately earned energy credits and caused a significant amount of distress. Not to mention the clear misuse of a state-regulated utility program and a breach of your fiduciary duty to the residents of this association. I let that sink in. The silence in the beige room is thick enough to spread on toast. Even if she hadn't confessed, I was ready. My briefcase contained printouts of the utility portal's administrative interface, generic ones, of course, but they looked official as hell. I was prepared to walk her through the exact digital footprints an audit would uncover, the timestamps of her logins, the specific IP addresses, a trail that would lead directly from her actions to my missing credits. But her blubbering confession? So much more satisfying. So, here's what's going to happen, Brenda, I say, my voice crisp and businesslike once more. The crying subsides a little, replaced by hiccuping fear. And here's what did happen. Brenda, under the very clear and legally binding advice of the State Energy Compliance Office, that is, me, in my official capacity, was required to retroactively submit all my missing solar data to the utility company. She also had to send a formal letter of apology to me for the administrative error. We agreed on that diplomatic phrasing to save her from total community immolation. Generous soul that I am. All my credits were to be applied, backdated, with interest if I'd really wanted to push it. I didn't. The look on her face was payment enough. The HOA, as an entity, received a formal warning from the State Energy Office. They were also informed they would be subject to periodic, unannounced audits of their utility program administration for the next 2 years. These audits would, of course, be conducted by someone else in my office to avoid any appearance of a conflict of interest. But I got to write the initial, very thorough and rather scathing preliminary report, highlighting numerous areas for procedural improvement. Brenda resigned as HOA president, immediately. The letter cited personal reasons and a desire to spend more time with her petunias. Unofficially, the rest of the board, having been made aware of the state inquiry and the potential for legal ramifications, had politely but firmly suggested she might find her talents better utilized elsewhere. Word gets out fast in a small community, especially when a certain concerned residents might have, anonymously, shared a heavily redacted summary of the inquiry findings with a few key neighborhood gossips. Mrs. Periwinkle's petunias, by the way, were absolutely fine. The glare was never an issue. I think Brenda just hated joy. Turns out, I tell Sarah later that week, as we're enjoying a glass of wine on our patio, the setting sun glinting off my beautiful credit-generating solar panels, when the state energy auditor lives next door and you decide to mess with his sunshine, things get rectified. Rather efficiently, in fact. Sarah shakes her head, a slow smile spreading across her face. You, Michael Henderson, are a menace. A wonderful, law-abiding, regulation-quoting menace, but you are never, ever allowed to run for HOA president yourself. Ever. We'd have mandatory solar panel inspections by Thanksgiving. Deal, I say, clinking my glass against hers. I've had enough suburban politics to last a lifetime, but my app? I pull out my phone and show her the screen, the little green numbers ticking upwards, a steady, satisfying climb. Oh, those little numbers are ticking up beautifully. A month later, life in the cul-de-sac has returned to a semblance of normalcy, or our new version of it. The new HOA president is a nervous, bespectacled guy named Dave, who seems genuinely scared of shadows and preemptively apologizes for everything. My solar credits are flowing like a mighty river. And Brenda Crabtree's house, number 12 Elm Street, has a bright, optimistic for sale sign planted squarely in the middle of its impeccably manicured, yet somehow less vibrant lawn. I'm on my porch, sipping a tall glass of iced lemonade, enjoying the late afternoon sun. Gus, my solar contractor, drives by in his trusty white truck, having just finished a job down the street. He spots me, grins, and pulls over. "Heard about the fireworks, Henderson," he calls out, leaning out his window. His voice still sounds like it could pave driveways. "Took down the Queen Bee, eh? You legend?" I just shrug, a picture of modesty. "Just ensuring energy compliance, Gus. One homeowners association at a time. Protecting the integrity of state programs." Gus throws his head back and laughs, a booming sound that echoes down the quiet street. "Right. And I'm the tooth fairy. You take care, Henderson. Don't let the power go to your head. Too much." He winks, gives a mock salute, and drives off. I watch him go, then lean back in my chair, a contented sigh escaping my lips. I look up at my solar panels, glinting in the golden light, silently, efficiently doing their thing. Yeah, this was definitely worth it. Every single, infuriating, ultimately hilarious moment.